Hey there, fourth trimester listeners. Our program today is proudly sponsored by Family Album, your secure haven for sharing baby photos and videos. Head over to the App Store today, search Family Album, one word, download the app, and start creating a legacy of love, one photo at a time. Hi, I'm Sarah Trott, and welcome to the Fourth Trimester Podcast. I'm a new mama, and this podcast is all about postpartum care for the first few months following birth, the time period also known as the fourth trimester. My postpartum doula, Esther Gallagher, is my co-host. She's a mother, grandmother, perinatal educator, birth and postpartum care provider. Fourth trimester care, our topic, is about the practical, emotional, and social support parents and baby require. And importantly, it helps set the tone for the continuing journey of parenting. Hi, listeners. It's Esther Gallagher here. We have two wonderful doulas, Manuela and Shakila from Doulas by the Bay, and they're going to introduce themselves further in just a moment. But I wanted to remind you all that in addition to this podcast, which you can pick up and refer your friends to on all the various platforms for listening to podcasts, we also have our website, fourthtrimesterpodcast.com. We have a Facebook page, and we want you to subscribe if you can to our podcast so that it just shows up in your little podcast app whenever we have a new one. And if you can, it would be ever so lovely if you could sponsor us, even if it's just $1 an episode. That would help us. So without further ado, I would just love to ask my wonderful guests to each introduce themselves. And why don't we start with you, Shakila? Tell us about your business and how you came to be a doula.
Thank you so much, Esther, for this opportunity. Thank you, listeners. My name is Shakila Marando. I am originally from Tanzania, East Africa, and I'm a mother of two girls, 10 years and 11 years old. Mm-hmm. I am a founder of Doulas by the Bay, LLC. It's an agency that connects parents and professionals, I would say parenting professionals like doulas, to work and help families pre and postnatal and offer them support. And I founded the company 2014, and I've been actually a doula myself for about 9 years.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, Manuela, tell us all about you.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Manuela Bakilana, and I'm 36 years old, and I come from Tanzania. I am married, and I've been living in the Bay Area for 16 years. And I've been a postpartum doula for almost 6 years now. I did my training back in 2012, and I've been working as a postpartum doula ever since.
Wonderful. That's great. So, why don't you each take as long as you need to tell us what brought you to being doulas? What interested you in the idea of helping other families? I'm very curious. I'm always very curious. It's such a great story, and it's always a great story.
I think for me, my journey as a mother, my first born was born 2006, and I know how much support usually a mother and her entire family needs after having a baby. I was very fortunate. Of course, I had their dad, and then I had my mom and my sister. And sometimes I wonder families that doesn't have a big family to support them, how would they survive at least the first 4 months of, the baby's life, fourth trimester. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I love what I do. I really do love working with parents. Just for me, I'm a night postpartum doula for many years now. I really do enjoy going and working with parents. I help them with breastfeeding. I help them just knowing how to care for the baby in a daily basis. I usually establish a day routine for them to help them learn how to, help the baby and go through the day with the newborn, and as well how to establish a good night routine when the baby is old enough. So I really, really enjoy working with families. Is my call, I would say, and I do believe that it takes a village to raise a child. So as long as we can come together and get some help from families, from doulas, I think we can make a better world.
I agree. I do. That's what this podcast is all about. Yes. What about you, Manuela? What brought you here?
So I come from a family of 8 children, and when my youngest sister was born in 93, when I was 12, I got my first introduction to raising a newborn child. I helped my mother to take care of her. I used to help with feeding, bathing, and babysitting her, and just making sure she's okay and happy. After moving to the United States in October of 2001, I worked as a nanny for several families in order to support myself while I attended college. I attended Laney College and then I transferred to San Francisco State University, where I majored in health education with a concentration in community-based public health, as I've always been interested in healthcare. I also really enjoy working with babies, so after hearing about postpartum doulas in 2010, I decided to do some research and ask people about the doula career. It fascinated me because I had experience already through working as a nanny. In July 2012, I decided to transition to working as a postpartum doula. I contacted Nikki Tilsner, who is one of the founders of Cornerstone Doula Trainings, and took the comprehensive postpartum doula course with her. Upon completion of the course, I volunteered for one family with newborn twins in Daly City.
Oh boy.
Yeah. After about 2 weeks, the couple decided to hire me, and that is how my journey as a postpartum doula began, and I'm still enjoying it up until now. Yeah.
That's great. That's fascinating. It's very interesting to me how many of us one way or another are very well educated, right? Yes. Not necessarily through college, yes, but through trainings, experiential opportunities, yes, etc. We are a pretty smart group.
Yes, and we do continue education as well. When we go to the doula meetings.
Yes.
We always have speakers.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. The San Francisco Doula Group makes a point of having speakers. I'm the speaker coordinator currently. And I've noticed that in the past with the doula group, we would look outside of our group for professionals to come speak to us from outside. But there's so many of us who have such interesting backgrounds that I've started to actually see how many of the doulas amongst us have something interesting they want to tell our group about. So, I just wanted to mention that. You were talking about your background in education, and I want to take a little detour back into your history. Yes. You both are from Tanzania.
Yes.
And I don't know whether you grew up in communities close by each other or far apart from each other. Certainly in California, every community has its unique flavor. But is there anything about growing up there that you would like to talk to our listeners about? Either just your own personal experiences growing up there, or maybe you even would venture a comparison and contrast between what you experienced as children and young women in another country and then coming to America. Or the U.S., I should say.
That's a very good question. I think, at least with my experience growing up in Tanzania, we found out that our communities are very, very close. So like for me growing up, we will know every kid in an entire street. We are very close. And then, of course, as mothers or families, when they go through labor and give birth, the entire community will come close and support the mother. So, and usually have extended families there. So,
Shakila, why don't you tell us some specific ways that the neighborhood would help those new parents?
Yeah, so like for us, my neighbor would come and, offer food, take care of the siblings. They would take them and, care for them. And definitely, since we are very, very close, if you give, if they know that there is a certain family in, a community or a street has given birth, and then everyone will come and support that mother. For us, we do know that a mother who has given birth, they usually stay in their bedroom, and their only job is to breastfeed and sleep, basically. And the entire community, whether it's extended family, friends, would make sure there is food for her. She takes care of herself. She gets plenty of rest. They take over, the entire basis of taking care of everyday life.
The household.
Chores, other responsibility that, weighs the family during that time. And make sure that the mother rests, just sleeps and eat and feed the baby. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's our job. At least the first 40 days.
Yes, I wanted to add to that. So we have what you call arobaini. Arobaini means 40. So when the baby is born, basically, the baby is not supposed to go out too much.
Right.
Especially, at least out of the compound. Maybe you can take her out of the house for fresh air. But then after 40 days, you have a big celebration. You have family and friends come by, come over to your place. And then you have a big feast and it's like a big introduction of the baby to the world.
Oh, that's delightful.
Yes.
I often suggest to my clients that, they keep it very, very quiet and low key for the first couple of minimum 2 weeks, but preferably 4 to 6 weeks. And, which still is a short period, really. And then think about, rather than having, one person come to visit and a whole string of people coming to visit one at a time, that they just have a potluck, right? And people can bring food and you can come out with the baby, you can go back in the house and, hopefully it can be outdoors. It is the Bay Area. Many days are sunny and we can do that a lot.
Yes.
But rather than imagining that you're going to see one person at a time, and never take a nap, that you're actually just going to have a little party and everybody can meet the baby. And I like that idea. I think that's, as a tradition, I think I honestly think it's just healthier.
Yes.
But I also think what in the U.S. we call traditional communities are really smart about, if someone's sick, they stay home. If, if like they're protective of that baby, even on the big party day. They know enough that this is a baby's first time coming into community, and you have to be respectful of that.
Right.
I have said on this podcast a number of times, and so finally we have living proof. So we give a lot of credit, or I certainly do, to Asia for the tradition of the first 40 days. And I always say, I know it's older than that. I know it goes back further than that.
Yes.
It must, Yes. So I'm so happy to have that confirmed.
Yes, and then I want to add another thing we do is, like, after a certain period of time, also the baby's head is shaved. I don't know if you do that here.
Never heard of it. Tell us about it.
Yes, so basically you just shave the head to symbolize a new life and a new beginning. And that the baby's hair in the womb is not it's like you want I don't know how to put it.
It's like a different life in there.
Yes, a different life in there. So you shave the baby's head to symbolize new life, new beginnings.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that, and correct me, I might be wrong in this, but I think part of it is if they've survived outside the womb for 40 days, they've got a pretty good chance, right?
Yes.
Things are looking good. And so now they're actually ready to be a baby.
Yes.
They're no longer a fetus.
Yes.
You know, human babies are squirted out into the world a little early. You know, we talk about that a lot. Like really, even though they look big, they're still immature. They still, if they were a different mammal, they would still be in the womb developing further until they could do more things. And so, you know, I think that's part of what's being symbolized is, okay, the baby's made it to this next developmental phase where they're not so much a fetus.
Yes.
They're actually a newborn.
A human being, yes.
And mom's good, baby's good, everything's good, and we can celebrate that.
Right.
Yeah. Would you say that's
Yes,
correct?
that's correct. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. Now, you know, a lot of babies, their hair just falls out. I'm sure you've noticed, like, some babies just don't even make it that far. Their hair just falls out if they had hair to begin with. And some babies are just born completely bald.
Right.
I had one of each.
I wanted to add another thing. The advantage of back home, you know, we have the community societies versus the US is individualistic.
Yes.
So one advantage is that, you know, when you have people surrounding you, you hardly have any time to be depressed, you know.
Right.
I first had the term postpartum depression here in America.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to have people around you. If you are feeling, you don't have time to feel that because you have somebody to talk to and take care of you, and you don't have to
I
worry
think
so
that
much.
you never have to worry that your child will be taken care of, that you will be taken care of. And I think my experience, and I certainly experienced postpartum depression both times, was, gosh, you know, most of the time it's all me, all the time.
Yes.
Plus everything else I have to do. That the people around me knew nothing about how best to support a pregnant person. Making sure that I was well fed, making sure I was getting enough sleep, not disrupting those things, but rather supporting those things. So by the time I had my newborns, it was just more of that, right? More disruption, more lack of support, more stress. And so, and less food and less sleep, right? So, of course, physiologically, I couldn't sustain that and still be feeling pretty healthy and whole a lot of the time.
Right.
And I think just the sense that you know, because you've grown up knowing that everyone around you knows who you are, knows what you need, is willing to support you in it, just as you are willing to support them in it when their turn comes.
Exactly, yes.
You're absolutely correct, Manuela. I don't think you could have put it more succinctly and more beautifully that, you know, there's not time, but there's also not the anxiety.
Yes.
You know, it just isn't, you're not anxious, you know. And I think, you know, so long as you're not experiencing political forms of deprivation, war, etc., you know, you can get through this life feeling pretty well if you have community.
You have the support.
Right?
Yes.
So, yes, thank you for reinforcing that.
You're welcome.
You know, it's very challenging in a highly capitalist society to find community support. Thank goodness for doulas, right? Thank goodness for neighbors if you're lucky enough to have them. I as I've said on this podcast before, I don't think I really would have made it if I didn't have my wonderful neighbor. It was just she and I. We both say, we kind of saved each other because at least we had each other to talk to about what was going on, to offer support. I mean, if needed, I could drop my baby with her. She could drop her baby with me, and that baby would get breastfed if it needed it and diaper changed. And, if necessary, all of that was taken care of. And we only had each other.
Okay.
There wasn't, the other neighbors were kind of clueless.
What about
they're perfectly nice people, but they had no idea what to do to help us.
Oh, I was going to ask, what were your parents, your mom?
My mom was working full time for Head Start, which you probably have heard of.
Yes.
She was the executive director for 4 counties.
Oh, wow.
And she had 3 days to be with me. She was with me day 1, day 2, and day 3.
Oh,
and
my
then she went,
goodness.
yes. I was with my daughter 2 weeks, and we both were just devastated when I had to go home to be on call for other clients. This is very much the experience in America.
Yes.
And now, with this demographic of older mothers, right? Women who aren't having their babies till they're in their late 30s and all the way through their late 40s.
Yeah.
Many is the time that their parents are retired and therefore can come and stay.
Yes.
But concomitantly, they're not always able-bodied. Because they're in their 70s.
Yes. And I wanted to add that I've worked for clients a lot of clients who've moved here from other states, they move here for work.
Mm-hmm.
So when, sometimes I ask them, when I go for the interview, I ask them, do you have, family who can come and help you for a few days? They're like, no. We moved here from another state for work. We have nobody.
Yes, and that's very often the case.
Yes, yes.
Where were your children born?
So my children, they were born over here in Berkeley, California.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I came here when I was, I believe, probably 19.
Mm.
So a long time ago. And I came here to
I had a
college.
2-year-old when I was 19.
Yes.
I was a young mom.
Young
so
mom.
you came to go to college. Oh.
Yeah, I came to go to college. I had my late aunt now who, took me in and sheltered and took care of me as I go through those first years in America. So I went to Contra Costa College, also Peralta colleges. My major was nursing, so
nice.
that was what I was going for. And then gave birth later on, years later. And then I just felt I've always worked with children as a nanny prior to that. So 13 years as a nanny. And then after my kids came, the support that network, my mom and my sister would come and help me. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up working with one of this was my first actually doula client. Yeah, she needed some help and she had a newborn and she told me about doula. And, I went and did a little research and I took a course. And, that's how I became a doula afterwards.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was such an empowering experience for me.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Isn't it interesting that something that's considered alternative in America, and that, a special few of us get to experience if we're lucky enough and we hear about it and we, our friends tell us about it because they have the experience. I mean, there are still huge swaths of communities of women who have not yet heard the word postpartum doula.
Yes.
They have no idea that there are people who actually know stuff about what it means to be postpartum, what it means to be going through a major developmental phase of being a woman.
Right.
Yes.
That you don't avoid unless you never have kids.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So, Yeah. And it's too bad that in the US, when people hear the word postpartum, they think it means depression, right?
Oh.
They don't see it as necessarily as the normal developmental phase that comes once you deliver your baby,
Right.
that everyone's going to go through.
Yes.
They think it's a problem. Yeah, a mental health problem. When it doesn't have to be, just as you were pointing out.
Yes.
So, while I think physiologically there are going to be plenty of moms who have maybe lots of help in the postpartum period and still will experience
Some sort of
real difficulty
Yes.
from a social emotional standpoint.
right.
I think it's important to note that without support, without knowledgeable assistance, many women are going to have a much more difficult social emotional time of it.
Yes. And
So-
yeah. And part of a doula, usually we work to support the entire family. So we make sure that the mom feels better, psychologically, emotionally. And if she's struggling, definitely we do refer out she seeks some more help.
Yes.
Yeah, especially when it comes to mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we monitor and make sure, even we ask during interviews if they have that history of depression, because we know once the baby comes with lack of support, definitely, or even with some support, they might, end up, going back to and experiencing, mental health issues. So we do recommend, they seek some help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're rather lucky in the Bay Area, aren't we?
Yes.
Because there are so many wonderful mental health workers who are orienting themselves to the special needs
Yes.
of the postpartum parents.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So good. Yeah. Manuela, tell us something that I don't have to ask you about. What else do you want us to know about your work and you and what's up?
I want parents to know that they don't always have to feel alone. If they feel like the first few months with a newborn are difficult, to always ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't worry about their finances.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important that especially for the well-being of the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Because I read some article, I don't remember the author, and basically it was saying that babies can feel the mother's emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So some mothers say, "Oh, my baby is fussy, my baby is colic, my baby just cries," and that article pretty much says that if the mother is feeling down and always depressed and the baby senses it and reacts to that, I think the term they used to call that is neural mirroring.
Uh-huh.
So the baby can, mirror the mother's emotions, whether the mother is aware of it or not.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So
an
it's
interesting phenomenon. Yeah.
Yes.
And these things can be challenging to tease apart. And I want to be sure our listeners understand that we're not blaming moms for fussy babies.
Right. Yes.
But rather acknowledging that this is kind of a feedback loop and that there is help.
Yes.
Right. There's just help. Whether it's just somebody to come help hold your baby during those fussy periods of time so that you can get some respite,
Yes.
or it's somebody who is going to do that deep dive with you to really root out your anxiety and depression and help you find skills to cope with those feelings
Yes.
that help you actually feel better, right? Not just coping, but actually help you escape the loop
Right.
that you might be in. Yeah.
And another thing that I have to remember is that, it's just a phase.
Yes.
Especially the first 3 months. So parents have to remember to keep their perspective. It's not going to last forever. I know, it's difficult sometimes, especially when you have a colicky baby, but hang in there. Take it one day at a time.
Sometimes one breath at a time.
Yes.
Right? Like just breathe, count your breaths.
Yes.
Focus on your breath. Slow down. Yes, it's true. I think one of the sort of experiential paradoxes of the first 3 months postpartum, the fourth trimester, is that on the one hand, things are changing so fast, right? The baby is growing and developing all the time.
Right.
Yes.
You can barely keep track, right? And at the same time, things seem to be going so slowly, and you can feel trapped, right?
Yes.
You can feel just like, oh my gosh, are we ever going to get out of this, very challenging phase?
Right.
So it's paradoxical. But it's also a phase that helps us prepare for the rest of parenthood, doesn't it? I mean, it's going to ease up, but you're still going to need those skills that you developed as a new parent when you're an old parent.
Hey, fellow parents, can we take a moment to reflect on the joyous chaos that is parenthood? You know those days when our hearts swell with love at the sight of our little ones and we're bursting at the seams to share every adorable moment with the world. But let's be real. Some things are better kept in the family, and your loved ones who matter the most aren't always close by, and they might not be that tech-savvy either. So how can you easily share your baby's beautiful growth with loved ones while keeping your precious memories secure? I remember the frustration of trying to use some of the big tech photo solutions, only to find they fell short of what I needed. That's when I stumbled upon something truly remarkable, the Family Album app. The Family Album app was created to give parents a secure and easy way to share photos and videos with loved ones. It's an orderly and totally secure haven for your family's personal memories. I love that there's no third-party ads, no unwanted eyes, unlimited storage, and that it's totally free. So to all the parents who are out there still trying to use other messaging apps for your kids' photos, it's time to level up your family photo game with a free photo sharing app. Head over to the App Store today, search Family Album, one word, download the app, and start creating a legacy of love one photo at a time.
That's I really appreciate the reminder, Manuela. How about you, Shakila? Anything you'd like to talk about in terms of, maybe how doulas help families? Yeah. And I know with your agency, you help connect people to various forms of doulas. Isn't that correct?
Yes, it is correct. So for us, in my agency, we do have different parenting professionals. We have birth doulas who help mothers when they're going through labor and birth. And also we have postpartum doulas who come after the mother goes home and support her there. And usually they're very, knowledgeable when it comes to breastfeeding, how to care for the baby. And our job as doula is really to empower a family and work out of the job, we call it. So by the time we do with the family, they have all the skills necessary to be able to care for the newborn and also care for themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And we do definitely care for the entire family, from siblings to, immediate family members, making sure after the baby comes, they transition, well and, with a healthy through the first 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we also offer nanny services. So after moms go back to work and they're looking for nannies.
No kidding. That's great. I'm often wondering where I can send my parents who are saying, okay, now it's time for us to find nannies.
Yes. So
I know of 1 or 2 agencies, but it's fantastic. I'm so thrilled to know that you also provide that service.
Yes, I've started providing it because I've been, being asked by different mothers, for such services because it's an immediate need after the doula leaves.
Yeah. And most of our our moms are going to be returning to
work,
full-time work at some point.
Yes, and also we do our placenta services.
Great.
Sleep services and breastfeeding services. So it's like a one-stop shop.
Fantastic.
Yes, once you are expecting, and we will be there with you. Yeah, every step of the way. And also now Doulas by the Bay is working on launching its first portal, an educational portal for parents.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So everything will be online in terms of education for expecting and new parents. So anything from, how to care for your newborn, breastfeeding, introduction to solids, how to search for a better child care, all the education will be available in this portal. And you can find out more information by visiting doulasbythebay.com.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's something that we're going to launch pretty soon. But it's going to be more like linda.com, only with parenting education.
Fantastic.
That is so necessary need.
That is wonderful, wonderful news.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are very excited. Yeah, very excited.
You are. That's
Yes.
great. Well, now, of course, listeners will be listening in the future to this podcast. So get out there and look for these things because they may already be there when you hear this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my website is www.doulasbythebay.com.
Fantastic.
Yes. Right. Or info@doulasbythebay.com.
Great. That's the contact email. Great.
Yes, yes.
Great. Yeah. Great.
Yes.
Now, you both, if I'm not mistaken, have done nighttime doula work. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, I am not currently remembering having a nighttime doula on the show. That doesn't mean we haven't. Absolutely, because I know Sarah does some of the podcasts without me. But I'm always curious myself, but I always want our listeners to hear about what a well-trained nighttime doula is going to provide by way of caring for families. So, Manuela, what can you tell us about how you take care of families at night?
Okay, so the shift usually begins at 10 p.m. and ends at 6 a.m. And I usually assist the mother with breastfeeding, or if the baby is taking a bottle, I assist her with, I always remind the mother to pump milk and make sure it's ready. And then once I take care of the baby, once the baby has eaten and has been swaddled and put back to sleep, I will help the mom with some laundry. Sometimes I make soup, for those mothers who love soup.
Good for you.
Yes.
Soup is good.
Yes, and I would sterilize the bottles and obviously check on the baby, make sure the baby is fine and doing well. Yeah, so that's a typical night shift.
And I bet you encounter moms who, while they're breastfeeding, if they're not also sort of sleeping or dozing through that breastfeeding, have questions and concerns. Is that the case? Do you have those moms who sometimes, just have to ask you questions about their baby, or they're not sure about their bleeding, or they're having breastfeeding issues? Do you encounter that at night?
Yes, I've had a lot of moms who have questions about breastfeeding, especially latching. For the first few weeks, that they always say, "Oh, my baby's not latching well," or "I'm worried maybe my baby's not getting enough to eat." So those are the types of questions that I get, mostly about latching. And I usually suggest something. Maybe we could, prop up the mom with some pillows, or hold the baby in a football position, and that usually seems to work.
Yeah. Helping moms to feel flexible and like it's okay to try different things, especially once they've been in the hospital, because they often feel very like there must be a right way to do this, but they can't remember what it is because the nurse came in and did it.
Yes.
Right? Rather than, oh, this is my body, this is my baby, I can try different things. Hey, help me with this. You know, there's someone to help if they have a nighttime doula, which is helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I know in my work, and I only do daytime postpartum care, but in my work, I'm striving to, as you say, get the parents to the place eventually when they're ready to kind of be on their own with these things. And so I want them to feel flexible, like they're not going to break their baby if they try upside down and backwards. You know, it'll either work really great or it won't work at all, and you can try it, you know. But I think moms need somebody nearby in those cases who can sort of just say, okay, let's try it. So it's nice to have that. I bet your moms are hungry at night too.
Oh yes. So sometimes sometimes they just want a glass of water, you know. They want to have someone there who can get them a glass of water or bring them some snacks.
Yes.
And sometimes they just want to sleep throughout the night. So the milk will be ready, and all I have to do is just make sure it's warm and give it to the baby. They just want their rest.
There's quite a range of what people want at night, isn't there?
Yeah, they usually, in the morning when you wake up and you give them feedback, they say, oh, that was awesome. I feel so refreshed. That's all I needed, just some sleep.
Yes, sleep is good whenever you can get it, day or night. Yeah, I just, I'm going to circle back around, but I actually saw reference to an article that said women need more sleep than men, just in general. And I thought, I want to find out about that, see what the science is around that. Because I can relate.
Does it say women in general or women who've just given birth?
It didn't say.
Oh, okay.
So it's not specific to postpartum.
Okay.
But I don't know about you, but I'm always telling my moms, look, you're healing.
Yes.
You're recovering. You're making milk like crazy.
Right.
You know, all those cows out in the field have to do is eat grass. Right. They're not also trying to do 6 other things.
Right.
So bad comparison, but the point being, and they rest. They eat and they rest and they make milk.
And they don't have to worry about hospital visits.
Right.
Or doing laundry or unloading the dishwasher.
Yes, exactly. Or making their own food, God forbid.
Visitors coming.
And visitors coming. Yeah, they're just out there with a bunch of cows.
Right.
Who already know what's going on. So I have to remind moms why it is so important to try to sleep anytime the baby sleeps, day or night, and not imagine that. So if they got to sleep last night, they're good to go for the daytime. I mean, these things don't work that way. We're on a very different timeline. It's why in Tanzania you stay in the bedroom for 40 days. It's why in all of Asia you're supposed to just lay low for 40 days so that if you're sleepy, you just sleep. Right?
Yes.
And when you're hungry, which is all the time that you're not sleeping, you're eating.
Yes.
That's why the whole village makes you food.
Right.
Somebody told me that the number 40 basically represents transition or trials. For example, like in the Bible, they talk about the number 40 a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
40
why,
days and 40 nights.
Right. Yes. So I guess it kind of makes sense, why it's 40 days.
Yeah, a lot can happen in 40 days, right? So, what about you, Shakila? Tell me about your night doula practice.
So my night doula practice, similar to Manuela, I get to work at 10 and then stay up until 6 a.m. And part of my work, most of the time, whenever the mother is able to talk and they're looking for more information, I do like to educate a lot. So, and also when I get opportunity to work a little bit during the day, I do tend to educate moms a lot.
Yeah.
How do you swaddle? How do you burp? Also, I'm a breastfeeding educator, so I love breastfeeding, and I get to help mothers with that as well. So we try different positioning that works. Anything that, they might be facing that is challenging.
Yeah.
And definitely, I do remember the minute I walk in, I ask them about their day, how their day went, how is the baby doing, if they have any question, any challenges that they face during the day, which hours comes up usually during that conversation, and what to do. So, I'll teach them a little bit how to structure, routinely, make sure that baby take naps also, make sure mom is well rested, baby is well rested. That way baby does not, cry a whole lot during the evening, which sometimes is not, preventable, but just to prepare mothers that this is normal. Babies do fast in the evening, and then, it phases out like in 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to tell parents, everybody's kind of ratty at the end of the day, even if you've had a great day.
Yes.
You've had a lot of stimulation. Even if you napped through some of it, it was still in your environment.
Yes.
And sometimes it just makes you irritable.
Right.
And so there's just that phase of heading in the direction of quiet and sleep and nighttime and being well fed and all those things. And it's tricky. I mean, I like to say my dad still has colic. I love my dad, but boy, as the day wears on, it gets harder for him.
Yeah.
And he's 85. But same when he was 35. But we all were. I mean, he was just the loudest example.
Yeah, so I do a lot of education just to make sure when I leave work 3 months, 4 months, the family is good to go by themselves. And also making sure mom is well nourished. During the day, during the night when I'm there, by making sure that we have little snacks around. I love to make breakfast because I know that usually, moms, when they wake up in the morning, they just rush to that baby. And before they know it's 10 a.m., they haven't had anything. So,
it's true.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to... Especially in the early days, you actually have to spoon it into them while they're breastfeeding. Because if you just set it on the table, you come back at 3 o'clock, it's still there, right?
Yes.
So,
it's true. And babies tend to eat whenever mom is hungry, is about the same time the baby wants to eat. So it just usually goes that way.
It's so true. We used to look at each other and go, they smell the food. They smell lunch and they've got to eat. So you don't, if you waited till you weren't breastfeeding to eat, you'd never eat.
You never get.
And if you did eat, you'd never sleep, right? So you just have to eat when your baby's eating.
Right. Yeah. Encouraging, parents to care first for themselves, which is kind of unnatural. That's not really how it works after you have children. You really think about them first. But I try to encourage, parents, think about you first and care for your needs first, making sure you are, you get time to sleep, you eat well and healthy meals, and then that way you can be able to better care for the newborn. To remind them that take care of yourself first, that way you can be able to better care for the newborn.
Yeah, so nice, so nice.
Yes.
Well, we're going to start to wrap up now, believe it or not. Is there anything that you can think of that you'd like to say that we didn't touch on yet? Or do you feel pretty complete? What do you think?
I would like to encourage, mothers when, after they have a baby or they are in a journey of going to have a baby, just to seek that help from people, either friends or families, making sure not to be shy, as Manuela said, to ask for help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, to take time for yourself too,
Yeah.
whenever you are able to, you can even, go on with your partner.
Yeah.
And have a date,
Have a date.
a 30-minute date, an hour date,
Yeah, and I think people don't realize maybe prior to having the baby that by about the time the baby's 4 weeks old, it's time to introduce a bottle. And unless you're going to be able to exclusively breastfeed your baby because you're not going back to work, etc., that it's time to introduce at least one bottle a day.
Yeah.
Which means that, of course, first, your partner can have the satisfaction and fun of feeding the baby. But then gradually, you can have those date nights with your partner, or date noons or date mornings or whenever works best for everybody.
Or pump and make sure you have a reserve and you can sneak out for an hour and come back.
Yeah.
If you are able to, but at least to remember the partner, has been there and just to foster that relationship and connect with other moms, the community of like-minded. Yeah, and be kind to yourself. We just went through birth and things are definitely different.
Yeah.
Life is definitely different at this time. So just to be kind and take it day at a time.
Shakila, I'm imagining, correct me if I'm incorrect in this, that part of what your agency also does for moms, and certainly this portal seems like an opportunity, is help pregnant and new parents to connect to the community, to find out what else is going on with parents. I mean, there's everything from infant massage classes to, I don't know, family dance night or, whatever's going on that helps them meet new parents and things like that, which is such a nice thing to have on offer. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
And I think for those of us who tend to get into the downward spiral of isolation because we're shy, we have a particular challenge with connecting with other people. That's part of the difficulty, as it were. Giving yourself that opportunity to be in community, even if all you do is hire a birth and or postpartum doula. And I always put the emphasis on postpartum. If you have to choose between the two, honestly, I would go for postpartum. But, and I do both, so that's my bias. But just if you can start with one person who's there to care for you.
Yes.
And then can help lead you in the direction of more and more community outside of your home, that will be a special boon to you.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I am so thrilled to have finally had you come on our podcast and get to hear about this really comprehensive agency you have.
Thank you so much for having me and having us together.
Thank you. Yeah. Shakila, just give us the contact information one more time, if you don't mind.
Yes, so you can find out more information on how to be connected with a doula or any services that you might need pre- and postnatal wise by visiting www.doulas, doulas, by the bay.com. Our email is info@doulasbythebay.com. And also a phone number is 415-510-9736.
I like that it's 415 and 510. That's San Francisco and East Bay. That's great.
Yes. And we have doulas who go all over the East Bay, San Francisco, Marin area, close to Santa Cruz.
Wow.
So we are
great.
Yeah, we pretty much cater to
cover it.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Great San Francisco, the area.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listeners, thanks for joining us one more time on the Fourth Trimester podcast. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook. Check out our website, fourthtrimesterpodcast.com. And we look forward to you joining us next time on Fourth Trimester Podcast. Take care.
You can subscribe to this podcast in order to hear more from us. Thank you for listening, everyone, and I hope you'll join us next time on the Fourth Trimester. The theme music on this podcast was created by Sean Trott. Hear more at soundcloud.com/Sean Trott. Special thanks to my true loves, my husband Ben, daughter Penelope, and baby girl Evelyn. Don't forget to share the Fourth Trimester podcast with any new and expecting parents. I'm Sarah Trott. Goodbye for now.
Hello again, bicycle man. I know you're doing all that you can. I wrote the song, simple and true. I wrote the song, I'll sing a song for you. You got your wheels, you got your gears. You ride around town without any fear. You got your pedals, you got your brakes. You always wear your helmet for safety's sake. Hello again, bicycle man. I know you're doing all that you can. I wrote the song, simple and true. I wrote the song, I sing a song for you. Hello again, bicycle man. I know you're doing the best that you can. I wrote the song, simple and true. I wrote the song, I sing a song for you.